So that's all great. Now I want to introduce you to something called semantic tags. So there's my code block, and I'm going to write the word semantic tags. Okay, so semantic is a word that means if I look at something, it will automatically tell me what that something is. What does that mean? Well, let's kind of, like, for example, let's just do an example. All right, so I'm going to come into my anchor tags here, and you and I just know that this is used for navigation. So we have a semantic tag that I can surround these with. So I'm going to make a semantic tag called nav. I'm not making that up. That is one of the tags that we can use. I'm going to, take this nav and surround it around my navigation. So my alignment isn't right. So I'm going to right click and choose Format Document. So let's see what it did to my page. Well, it didn't do anything to my page, right? My page is the same. So this tag, nav, doesn't do anything to my page per se, but first of all, it separates to you and your eye the fact that this is intuitively navigation. You can look at the word nav and recognize that this is most likely your navigational tools. But what it also does, so semantically, it makes sense. If I look at that tag, it makes sense. It kind of gives me a visual clue. It gives me a clue exactly of what is contained inside the opening and closing tags. But what it does is it also gives me another selector. So I can apply a style to this nav that is going to surround my navigation. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to use that selector for nav in my open and close curly brace. And some of the options that I'm going to choose a property for background color. So let's do a background color of, and I did look these up beforehand, so this isn't really random, but I'm going to choose this color, which gives us this kind of greenish color or teal color, whatever you want to call it. We're going to do something called box shadow here. And box shadow is really kind of cool. Let me just put some values in here so I'm not talking and trying to think at the same time. All right. Okay, so what box shadow does is it provides a shadow around this navigation. So the navigation surrounds all of my anchor tags. So it's the navigation that's getting the styling. So it's not styling each individual anchor tag, it's styling this entire block. And this block then is getting a shadow. You can think of the word box, and we'll look more about box shadows or boxes in the next week. But for now, this is sort of a box that surrounds our anchor tags, and that box is getting a background color. Well, these things are inside the box, so they are also part of that background color. And then we have this shadow, and what these values mean is the first value is how far to the right do we want the shadow? How far down do we want the shadow? And how much blur should it have? And then, of course, the color. So if you want to play with those values, you'll see different values being demonstrated. So if I put 15, then you can see how much further down that would be the down. This is to the right. So if let's do something large just so you can see it. So 20 to the right, 20 pixels to the right, 15 pixels down. This is the blur. So let's do something like 35 just so we can see the blur. So you can see that you can adjust those values and the order matters. So this is to the right, this is to the bottom, how far down, and then this is your blur. So I'm going to put back the original values that I had. I just leave it there. That looks all right. Maybe not so much blur. Let's tone that one down a little bit. Anyway, you play with those values. It just gives a little bit more dimension to your navigation, to your semantic tag, to your semantic block. Let's see. What else was I doing on the nav? Okay, that seems good. Okay, so that's one semantic tag. Let's add a different semantic tag. I have another semantic tag to add. I'm going to add a tag called footer. A semantic tag called footer. Now, I'm guessing that you can already look at that semantic tag footer and guess that that's something we're going to surround the H3 and the paragraph with. This is our footer type information. So again, I'm going to put the word footer here. And I'm going to move this content into my footer. and recognize that it hasn't done anything to my page, but it definitely gives me a block that I can select that is surrounding or containing this content. Semantically, it gives me a clue that that should be placed at the bottom of my page, and I can provide some kind of styling to my footer. So I'm going to add border to this one. So I'm going to add let's do a 2 pixel border, 2 pixel. I have to provide a color, and I'm going to provide a black. And so what you're going to see that this does is exactly that. It's going to put a border around that block, that footer block, that contains my H3 and my paragraphs. Okay, you can also do border dash top, bottom, left, or right. So those are other values you might try. And that just gives me a border on the top. Okay, that seems good. So semantic tags then are special tags that are provided that gives us you, the reader, a visual clue of what's contained inside the open and closed tag. By itself, it's not doing anything as to our page, but it is providing us the ability to do some special styling to a block that surrounds that content. Now, I do need you to know that just because this is a footer, semantically, it makes sense to put it at the bottom of the page. It doesn't mean that you can't put it at the top of the page. This will still validate. It doesn't make sense semantically, so we don't usually find a footer at the top. And be very careful. Oftentimes I'll see students think to themselves, well, there's a body, and so I'm going to put the footer underneath the body. Well, this isn't going to validate either, because even lets us know you always want to validate that the footer, just because in your mind it goes at the bottom of a body, it does not go underneath the body tag in our HTML. Remember, everything that we want to show inside of our HTML page needs to be inside the body tag. So I'm going to right click on this and choose format. Format again. Oftentimes I see students make the mistake of thinking that the nav goes in the head tag. Again, the nav is not something that should be in the head tag, because this is something I actually want to display to the user. So where I would argue, yeah, but it's showing up in my web page, that doesn't make it right. It does not validate, and it is not where it belongs, and it'll give you the error there, and it's letting you know that that is not where that belongs. So the nav and the footer and all your semantic tags, again, to repeat itself, everything that we want to display on our web page needs to be inside the open and closed body tag. It needs to be indented, which mine is not. So once again, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go back to Format Document to make sure that everything is indented appropriately. All right, so I'm going to conclude this video with a link to W3 Schools. And I'm going to go to W3 Schools, and I'm going to type in semantic tags, because it's not the intention of this video to teach you all of the semantic tags, but just to teach you what they are and how they work. So I see a link here to semantic elements, so I'm going to click on that. And this is a discussion of semantic tags. So there's more than just the one I used. So we used nav in this video. We've used footer, but there are many more that are available to us. And I think you should take some time to come and look at this page and experiment with or learn what some of these other semantic tags offer you.